Uh, Hi, I would like to dedicate this video to a very troublesome subject that deals with twisted religion and twisted governments that are basically wrecking the whole planet. Um, I named this video Wahhabis, Zionists, and Goody Two-Shoes Americans because these three groups of people are the most destructive, militant, and militaristic entities, and they are the ones that are behind many foreign wars and civil wars and disturbance, and they are the main threat to world peace. Um, we could take a look at the events of the last 5 years and kind of review the history of the Syrian civil war, and the results has been devastating. Millions of people have been dislocated, and also I don't know how many people have been killed, maybe 200, 300. The numbers are out there, and basically this civil war was instituted and coordinated by Hillary Clinton and the State Department of the United States, because the long-standing U.S. policy of destabilizing secular governments in the Middle East, or destabilizing any government that does not take orders from the United States government, and replacing them with friendly personalities. A lot of this foreign policy is actually is a foreign policy that's dictated by Israel and Saudi Arabia. There is a history of the Saudi family originally coming from Syria, or desiring to own and operate Syria and Libya. Uh, this is actually a very sad history, and it shows that we are walking towards World War III, and when the end comes for these three regimes, it probably will be very violent, and it will not come from reasons that we usually think. I think some of the underlying reason would be that the U.S. dollar would crash, and all these regimes are dependent on this phony money to print a lot of it and buy weapons and train terrorists. And when it falls apart, maybe they'll fall apart. I don't know. The Israelis are supported by other Jewish bankers, Rothschilds, and they'll print other kinds of money. I think their demise will have other reasons, which I've gone through in the 2016 psychic predictions. Um, the the Wahhabis are some of the most destructive and criminal elements in the Middle East. Just looking at what they have accomplished after the Iraq War, and in the Syrian and Libyan conflicts, they have managed to kill 1 million Iraqis, Syrians another 300,000. I don't know how many have lost their homes, and they dispatch all these different groups to different parts of the world. It's just amazing how much damage they have done. And let's focus on the Wahhabis. They claim that they are Muslims, and this is very damaging because, say, at some point in the future, this regime, the Al Saud regime, falls apart, or foreign enemies they can dissect them, which is the very probable course, the way they're acting. And what happens when our religion, like the religion of Islam, has been tarnished to such a degree by its by these people claiming to be Muslims, that it just future generations are going to look at this religion and just shake their heads. Say, I don't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, in the beginning of religion of Islam, it was a very spiritual religion, and the way it has devolved into these groups, it should be very alarming to Muslims. This regime has managed to kill a famous cleric, Sunni cleric, Booty in Syria, and recently also killed Ayatollah Nimrul Nimr, which is like a significant Shia cleric. So basically, it has killed off two prominent religious figures, and it knows how to make political decisions and call it Islamic, whereas it has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. I think in the Muslim world, the Muslim scholars and clerics should make a conference and try to make an analogy between Al Saud family and the Wahhabis and all these terrorist groups, and groups that were, or in the beginning of Islam, they were not Muslim and they were extremely violent groups, but they claimed to be Muslim because it was beneficial to their behavior. I am referring to a group that was in the time of Imam Ali's Khilafat, or his last 4 years, and they were called at the time Al-Khawarij, which means the exiters. Which means they were originally, they had made covenant with Prophet Muhammad, and they in principle had accepted Islam, but later on they became mercenaries, and they were up for hire for anybody, and they would basically go around and fight with different tribes or kidnap people from different tribes, and the tribes had to give them ransom or anyhow this became a huge problem, which was basically what we have right now, bands of assassins that they're gone wild, and they claim to be the Islamic State or Muslims, but they just do whatever that benefits them. And there is a lecture by Imam Ali, and by the way, he is one of the most significant Muslims that you can find in Islamic history. He was actually the first Muslim. He was son of the uncle of Prophet Muhammad, and also he was the first Imam, and not only that, he was appointed a spiritual leader, and he was one of the four righteous Khalifa that came after Prophet Muhammad. So basically, his opinion is very important. If you are a Muslim, you need to look at this opinion and relate it to what's happening right now. And he mocked these exiters and called them. He asked them if do I need to go to war and capture my own sister and then ask like ghanima, like ransom from my own family? Do I do stuff like this? I'm the real Muslim, right? I'm your spiritual teacher, and do I do these things? The stuff you're doing, does it make any kind of sense or relevance to the religion of Islam? I think that we need, as Muslims, make an effort through conferences and through get together of clergy to distance ourselves from this regime and similar regimes that have sprung up, like Kuwaiti or Qatari, and they each support the terrorist groups here and there. Or what do you think will happen when these governments fall apart, which is very probable? In fact, if I wanted to write a book on the future history of regimes in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Kuwait and all these other crap, I would model their history either in the past or in the future, similar to the times of Saddam Hussein and the stuff that he did. Saddam Hussein was Ba'athi, which was he believed in the superiority of Arabs, or the revival of the Arabs. He had no love for anybody in Iraq, and not for the Shia, not for Kurdish, even had rivalry with other Sunnis. And when he couldn't pay his debt to the Kuwaiti Emir, he invaded there too. So basically, his ways of thinking is very similar to what? Hitler or fascism, and has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Why do we need to be so tarnished in so many ways by these despots? I mean, I practice a form of Islam, Sufism. I believe it's very spiritual, and it's mostly spiritual practices with some social laws and rules and how to conduct yourself. Anyhow, I do believe that they are doing us all a great disservice, and they are walking towards disintegration, so they don't need to take us along with them. And the other issue is that when the regime of Saddam Hussein fell apart, does that mean that the religion of Islam or Shia or Sufis, did we stop to exist too? I mean, do we need Saddam Hussein to practice this religion? Or would it stop me from achieving communion with ittisal with God? Because Saddam Hussein is not dead. Or what happens if all the Saud are all dead? Would I stop being a Muslim, or do I need them now or later, or does it make a difference to me? Then why would I want to be associated with them and be tarnished by the stuff they do? This discussion, it exists in other religions too. I just want to mention these other religions or institutions. For example, at the time when Zionism started in Germany, there was a rabbi, and his name was Rabbi Simon, and he was opposed to Zionism, the idea of going back to Palestine and kicking out the Palestinians and taking over the place. And he would say that we Jews, we have lived in harmony with the rest of the world, and the religion of Judaism is basically a set of moral or spiritual practices, and Zionism is in conflict with these ideas. This is not Judaism. You could ask the same question from the Jews. Do you think that Judaism will survive the state of Israel? Or what will happen if Israel committed mass genocide, which it has done in the past, but not to such a scale? What if they did a big one, as big as Hiroshima or more? What if the world turned against them and they are a political enterprise? What happens when you are associated with them and they are going down the toilet? Do you want to go there too? such questions are asked by activists like Finkelstein. He asked these questions, and many Jews in the United States they don't really identify with Israel, but this regime has so much influence, so much money, and it's sponsored by so many wealthy bankers. Uh, it's really sad. I think that both Israel and Saudi Arabia and a lot of these little despot regimes like Bahrain, or they have very dark futures, and why would we want to go along with them? Let's go back to United States, and United States has the same discussion goes on here, but it has a really different form, and you really have to be tuned into to see it. There was the President Jimmy Carter, the ex-president. He wrote a book, and he named his book "Our Endangered Values," which means that the United States became a great country because it was based on democratic values, on constitution, egalitarianism. Okay, so but later on it engaged in militarism. Like later on in Islamic history, the Muslims engaged in militarism, and taking over foreign countries became the main interest, and they forgot the teachings of Islam. And this happened here in the United States, and they forgot. In the beginning, there was a sentiment not to get entangled or have foreign entanglements, but later on they gave that up, and then the United States started doing things that were contrary to their own interests or their own values. Right now, the U.S. government is deeply influenced by Saudi money and Israeli influence, and none of them have anything to do with the values or democratic system that they want to implement. There was another historian, his name was Chalmers Johnson, and he writes about militarism and dire consequences of militarism. One of them being destruction of democratic systems or democratic processes, the establishment of standing armies and militaries that interfere in civilian life. And right now, the U.S. intelligence services, they interfere in business, they interfere in people's affairs, they spy on everybody in the world, and here there is no forms of democracy. Democracy flourishes when there is respect for individual privacy and individual rights, and this environment is not conducive to democracy, and it has not been for a long time. We actually benefited from what the older generations have done, and we are the recipient of that goodness. Right now, the American population is extremely complacent, and I think that the events that will unfold very soon will show that there is profound disunity in this society, political disunity. I was looking at some of Trump's rallies, and almost every rally there is fistfights. What happens if something really happens to this fool? Oh my God, are we gonna have a civil war here? I think for sure this election is going to get cancelled, and then there will be retaliation or a mafia war. I don't know. I cannot make up my mind if it's going to be the Saudis who start the mafia war with the U.S. politicians, or is it going to be the Trump crew? I don't know. We are headed for a lot of turmoil, and it's not going to be simple to fix. I think we are headed for political disintegration. Same goes for Saudi Arabia and Israel. Uh, there's just too much conflicts and karma in these societies. They are lucky that they have survived this far. And so um, the other thing that I think will happen is disintegration of US currency, and with it their ability to wage wars, buy off other people. And this has happened to the Saudis because the oil price has collapsed, and the consumption of oil has collapsed too. And it just they are coming to their destiny in one form or another. And it's just interesting to watch that. But the underlying philosophy here is to realize that their institutional ideologies are not anything that's spiritual or moral, and the rest of the humanity can move on. So what? The company or the government went belly up, and that's not the end of the world. There is no end to technological and material progress. So what if some of these guys aren't around anymore? So what? And thank you for being in my video. I will have a video that will go through some of my actual psychic experiences that confirm these ideas. Thank you very much.